basically what the world is overthinking without action and not following their heart. So you have broken hearts projecting broken hearts onto others. So that creates trauma within relationships and families and government and companies. And so I follow my heart to create things that hopefully help people heal their own hearts and then find right romantic partner if that's what they choose to do, and then create things with those healed hearts.
So you found it, the soul of connection. If you're succeeding at everything except the relationships that matter most, this is for you. I'm Tressie Yonakawa, brain science, no fluff, real change. All right. Welcome to the Soul of Connection. We have today my dear friend Justin Breen from Orem. And I met Justin through friends and colleagues. And I think everybody that I know knows you, knew you before I knew you. Because you are a connector. You do relationships in a really big way. And you've introduced me to some incredible people who will be in my life forever.
Mm.
And I appreciate you so much. And I'm just curious how the neurodivergent brain head works to connect, to do relationship, to love, to parent, all of those things. Because I think a lot of us think it's kind of an anomaly, but I think it's the norm when we actualize it. So welcome, Justin. I'm so glad you're here. What is the first thing that comes up for you around what Orem is here to do in the world, what you're here to do?
Oh, well, two things, and then grateful to be here. But I take none of this credit. It comes from higher power or source or whatever you want to call it. And then it's not really the brain, it's more of my heart. Everything comes from the heart first. The heart has many, many little brains within it. Heart Math Institute, others have shown it's far more powerful than the brain. And then what's happening in the world, because unless I'm in a format like this, I'd rather listen and observe. And then I spend my whole life talking to visionary leaders and was a journalist for 20 years. So I just listen 90% of the time and then observe the patterns with my heart. And then the brain creates patterns with that. But basically what the world is overthinking without action and not following their heart. So you have broken hearts projecting broken hearts onto others. So that creates trauma within relationships and families and government and companies. And so I follow my heart to create things that hopefully help people heal their own hearts and then find right romantic partner if that's what they choose to do, and then create things with those healed hearts.
That's beautiful. And to go from journalism to healing heart. And that's a leap. It would seem like a leap.
No, same thing, just a different avenue. Yeah. So I get that question. It's interesting because and this is something I've learned by observing, is that I'm still a journalist. Next book is coming out called Epic Journey, and it's just a bunch of journalism articles from a first person perspective. And then my dad was 61 when I was born, and he was a World War II hero. And then I filed his World War II diary to France to finish the book, and then just posted one of the entries from his diary today on social media, and it talks about going into combat. And what the book is about is it's an inner war to heal your own heart. And really, to me, that's the only war that matters, is because most of the world has broken hearts. They have not healed their own hearts, and then instead of doing that, they're projecting their trauma out. So that's why we have war and economy issues and trauma within relationships, and religion has a lot to do with that, education, and we're living in these constructs. I like to look at the root words of things, etymology. So the word business comes from besignus, which means anxiety. The word sale means selling dirty. Religion means to bind. The word nice means stupid. Family's an interesting one. Family comes from the Latin word familis, which means member of a household, staff, servant. So um, for the women and children to be servants of men, that's where family actually comes from. So it's really interesting to kind of like see the root of that. And then there's good words. Courage comes from the Latin word cor, C-O-R, which means heart. So one of the companies I helped start is called Corvia, Heart Path, Corvia, Heart Path.
What does Corbia do?
Creates music through artificial intelligence. My partner and I were creating a community that helps people do that. And then music actually predates the spoken word by 10,000 years. They found the first instrument. The scientists dated it back to 60,000 BC, and then the first spoken language, was 50,000 BC. So I like to go to the root, and then all the answers they're there. It's just they've been forgotten or been conditioned for things like business and sale, things that make people anxious or dull and dirty, because that's what the words actually mean.
So interesting. I always say I do the same thing. I call it a spiritual bait and switch, basically. What I do, because I feel like I teach love, but I can't put that on an RFP, right, for a corporation. So, the key performance indicators of having alignment, basically, or having a stable neural system. And for me, it all comes from neuroscience. I can explain almost all the woo with neuroscience, but when we are able to self-regulate, co-regulate, when we're using actually language, I'm glad you brought up how language is used, because when we're using the language that doesn't disrupt our limbic system, we can be clear rather than acting out our stories and patterns. And so that's where I've been successful. And my main company is Epic Odo, and it's the epicenter of Odo for sound, right? For the vibration of sound, whether we can hear or not, that connects. Yeah. So I love that we're talking about this. And I love that I had the opportunity to hang out with you. We're at Harvard for a couple of days. And what I saw you do and hang out, I never saw you in a session. You were always out in the hallway or outside. And
trying to sell stuff.
Right. And those are big name people.
What's happening in that? I mean, look, it's
totally
truth behind that. So.
Totally, yeah. And I was in some of those sessions, but every time I was out hanging out in the hallway or just observing you, because I think you're fascinating and I love you dearly, people come to you. You're just hanging out, your head's down, you have your hat on, and they just come up to you. And I think we were talking with Dr. Oz and his wife, who's lovely. And it's such a fascinating thing to me. And I've heard you talk about it before, that happens. Why do you think that happens?
Well, one, thank you for saying that. Thanking me is acknowledging other person's humanity. And then again, I feel everything. I don't really do much thinking unless my heart tells me to think about it. So I'll answer your question like that. But, if I didn't think about what I felt, I would just float away. I'm very aware of that and need some type of grounding. And have found the two best, I guess, if you want to call them assessments, even though they're not, but I guess assessments. One is numerology, and two is human design. There's other good ones for like more the 3D world, like Colby or Myers-Briggs. Those are fine, but like to understand more of the spiritual EQ, I found numerology and human design. So, which I didn't believe any of this stuff. I didn't even know what they were a couple of years ago. But, so in numerology, I'm an 11 life path. It's extremely rare. Master number, master visionary. Don't really care about material things at all. Apparently, master numbers. This is our last incarnation on this planet. Thank God. This is like final lesson. Carl Jung called 11 life paths wounded healers. So you go through this horrific dark night of the soul. I haven't met an 11 that hasn't gone through something like that.
Is that a test people can take online?
Yeah, it's just your birthday, and then you just Google numerology calculator. Yeah, it's just your birthday. That's why it's like so, and then it's creepily eerily accurate. And then
Human design. What are you in human design?
yeah, right. So I'm a 6-2 manifester. So in 11 life paths, extremely rare numerology. Manifestors are extremely rare, 7% of the population, unless I, again, I like to have some type of grounding. And this actually answers your question. So manifestors, they just kind of feel everything, and then people come to them. Manifestors aren't really supposed to do grunt work or participate. It's a very old ancient energy. Um, and then 6-2, the 6 means role model and 2 means hermit. So I need a lot of alone time, a lot of solitude, which I'm in the middle of now, preparing for this epic journey book to come out. And 6-2 manifestors will blow up everything. They will completely dissolve their former lives. Think about it like a caterpillar going into a chrysalis and melting, disintegrating, become a butterfly. 6-2s who will go all the way with that, especially manifestors. Then they come out as butterflies. And then going back to 11 life paths, most of them can't handle it. It's too much pressure. They live a life of more of like a 2 life path, which is like community, love, divine feminine energy. My 11-year-old son's a 2 life path. He's the sweetest little guy, and he's a manifester. But 11 life path and manifester, it is not for the faint of heart. And then all of that was combined into one book, and then these companies, and then pre-manifested the book in real time, having no idea what the hell I was doing or what any of this stuff even was 2 years ago. So now here we are, it's about to come out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've evolved so much. You continue to. I would
Yeah.
expect you to. And I think the person who introduced us it had me do the Colby test before I would meet you, because at that time you were only taking meetings with people who were quick start.
Right.
Right? That's been a few years ago. And so I was like, "Whew, thank God I passed the test." Because that was such a fun initial meeting. And you are, I'm going to say with love, you are one of the most strange, interesting, incredible human beings. And as I've said, you've connected me with some really amazing human beings. And I'm curious, when you talk about heart, so I come from neuroscience, you come from journalism and a lot of other kinds of background. And when we talk about the heart, tell me what you mean.
Well, heart means courage, core, COR.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm extremely aware of spiritual ego and all those kind of things. But what I'm experiencing now and going through now, most people could not handle this. There's just writing this manuscript has led to an extremely amicable divorce, and now I live a mile away from my wonderful ex-wife and children, and have gone through full dark night of the soul, extremely painful. And with this book coming out, and Dr. Deepak Chopra doing the introduction, and this book coming out now, you can argue it's the biggest controversy scandal of our lifetime, many lifetimes. The elite of society, they're being exposed in real time. And then the book's literally about the rise of the divine feminine, for regardless of gender, but for all leaders to embrace more of their feminine energy, their creativity and love and harmony, regardless of gender. And to have written this 2 years ago in real time, and literally having that be about that, and then experiencing that as it's coming out, you can't make that up. There's no logic in that. And then I appreciate your neuroscience background. I appreciate folks with very high IQ. I guess technically I have very high IQ as well. tested 139 as a 7-year-old, so I've got a high IQ. I get what I've learned is that logic only goes so far, and that after logic, the only logic is illogic in love. So there's no there's no logic in any of the. I mean, so and then you called me strange earlier. So strange, I like to know what words mean. It comes from the Latin extraneous, which means external, from the outside or foreign. So I kind of pop in and out of things, and they're very confused most of the time. But the ones who have actually done some inner work and inner feeling, the two words I hear the most are refreshing and nourishing, because most of the world is overthinking, very high IQ with very low EQ. That's called narcissism, by the way. And then I just come in and with all heart, and then manifestors are extremely direct. They have to tell people how they feel. So if I love someone or in love with someone, I'll just tell them, regardless of timing. And if I'm getting really annoyed, I'll just tell them. If I'm like, well, you're a narcissist, I will tell you. I'm not speaking to you, but if someone is, I'll just tell them. I'll be like, you're acting like a narcissist. So it's most people don't live like that because they're not following their heart or how they feel. They're following their brain and overthinking things.
True. And when I ask people, like, where do you feel your heart? Where do you feel love in your body? And almost all the time, people initially start with their heart, right? And then when we talk about what is actually love, what is actually like undefined from where we've learned, because we've been taught that our heart conditioned, exactly, and by all kinds of things, include marketing in your list, education, marketing, grown-ups around us as we're developing all of the things. And then we carry those stories. So when I ask again, where do you really feel love? It's really curious to me and really exciting that people who are physicians, nurses, people who do healing work, massage therapists, a lot of times will say in their hands. They feel love in their hands. Singers, people who are on stage, a lot of times will feel it, in their throat, in their face, like wherever, I have this theory after 30 years of this work with top leadership and pretty high profile couples, that we're all here for one or three of three reasons. It can be all three, but to help other people, to help animals, to help the planet. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
Well, one, I appreciate that background. That was very interesting to me. I feel everything, everywhere. Like everything is hard to me. It's extremely painful feeling everything, because people tell me things that they never tell anyone else almost right away, within minutes of meeting. It's super, there's like this, always been like that. There's been this comfort, people, I don't know. It's like,
so I think it's a nice benefit. I really appreciate it. And I hold it very, I'm going to say sacred, confidential, because I get to work with a lot of people who I have NDAs with, so it's legal also. But I just never have been excited to tell people other people's stuff. Do you feel the same?
Well, in a way, yes, but also I do discuss what other people tell me with other people, because thanks for asking that. It helps them understand that they're not alone.
People.
Say that again, please.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've never heard you talk directly about other people, but I think you and I both will generalize.
Well, I'll give you an example. I have a lot of, I guess, wealthy friends, which is fine, and many who aren't. And then I'll share it here because I think it's important for people to understand, one of my friends is a member of one of the most prestigious families in America, very well known. And, he was just telling me a couple of weeks ago that he's done and he's gonna hang himself in a hotel room. So, he didn't, which I'm glad he didn't. But like, people think that there's this antidote with material gain. And what I have learned firsthand and then talking to, thousands of people, is that for the most part, that is not making them any happier. And they're searching for an outside answer as opposed to healing the inner, whatever, childhood wound or core wound. And then, I'm sorry, what?
We've never been taught how to do that, or that it's even.
Well, we've been conditioned. Our society has been conditioned with business, sale, religion, like that. So anxiety, dull and dirty to bind. That's what. And then again, Carl Jung, 11 life paths, wounded healers go through this. Robert Johnson was a young disciple. He did shadow work, and then I'm paraphrasing one of his quotes, one of my favorite quotes, but for a select few, there's a determination to seek liberation from social hypnosis. For a select few, there's a determination to seek liberation from social hypnosis, social conditioning. We've been conditioned. And then I know you do so much great work with relationships, and then, I like to simplify because it's just easier and then it helps people. And then people want to take a deeper dive, that's fine. But from a man-woman perspective, what I've learned and seen and experienced and have been told and gone through immense pain with this myself, but from a woman perspective, they've been conditioned to receive abuse, thousands of years of being traumatized by men and women at a cellular level. I haven't met one woman, not one, that has not been traumatized and or abused by a man or a woman. I haven't met one. If you have met one, please introduce me to that person. I would actually like it. I haven't yet. I'd say 60 to 70% of the people I talk to are women. Okay. So it's been conditioned at a cellular level. And so when a man who genuinely loves them, it's a glitch in the matrix. It's confusing because you've been conditioned for abuse. And then for a man, again, this is how I spend my days talking to men who have been in these type of relationships. When they genuinely love a woman and then or a man, and when it's rejected, there's nothing more painful for a man. Nothing. There's nothing more painful for a man if you genuinely love somebody. And so then men take that trauma and then become narcissists or create things. That is what countless men have told me about where their real inner hurt has come from. And they created something and then scales it.
That's so fascinating. I love that. Almost, I would say that every client that I've ever had.
Client means to lean on, by the way. It's a support thing. That's what client.
I love that. I love that. That's fitting then.
Right. That was good. That one actually makes sense.
Yeah. That does make sense. And what you just said has been true through time for me, that every one of them has said, I have everything the world told me that I need to have to be happy. Tell me why I'm still not happy.
Because it's all bullshit. It's all conditional.
And it's all, yeah. So the thing that I have said that I solve is it's not a relationship problem. It's a self-worth, self-value, because we bring into the spaces between us exactly what we carry.
Yes.
And I think that's why the dis-ease or the disruption, disevolution of connection, of relationship happens. And once we solve for that, everything in life gets better. So people think they're working with me to help their leadership team, to resolve boards, to, or to help their coupling or their family. And then everything exponentially gets better. They start making more money. They start, having more quality friendships. Everything happens. And it's because they've done the work. So I'm curious, when we teach this stuff, how do you continue to evolve yourself as opposed to connecting, helping everyone else and externalizing it?
Lots of solitude, and I'm convinced at this point, in a good way. Again, my divorce was extremely amicable.
Your wife is lovely.
She's a wonderful woman, and it's interesting. I tell people how amicable it was, and they're like, "Well, it's not usually like that." I go, "I know it, but it's she's such a wonderful woman." But big reason for that, and me being in solitude, is because I had to go through this on my own, in mostly quiet. My sons are 13 and 11, and they're maniacs like me, so we spend a little time together. I mean, decent time, but for the most part, I'm in solitude. And it was preparing for this book launch because that is what I'm about to experience is not for the faint of heart. I mean, this is going to be an extremely difficult. This is what I'm on this planet for, and I had to prepare for it. Had to prepare for it, and which is fascinating because that's literally what the book is about. I mean, my father was a war hero. He was shot down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute. He'd get back into a plane, and he'd be 110 if he was alive now. And I appreciate that guidance. He's always watched over me. But it's and then there's one of my friends, Melissa Bernstein. She co-founded Melissa and Doug Toys, and she had a $1 billion exit, and she's been suicidal since she was age 8, and she created Melissa and Doug Toys so to keep herself from committing suicide. So I think she's in her late 50s now, early 60s. She's talked very openly about that, but she likes to combine words. Which is really smart. She's really high IQ, EQ. Wow. And my favorite word of hers that it's in the book, it's called exhilified. So it's exhilarated and terrified. And that is how I feel right now. Really excited about this, but I am scared shitless because this is, going right into of what's really hurting the world right now in real time. And it's I needed this time alone.
Ideally, what is the optimally, and not in a perfect world, but in this world, what is the outcome?
No idea.
Of this book in the world?
No idea. Yeah, I don't. If you would have told me 2 years ago when I was writing this, having no idea what I was doing, that this would be what was happening, I would not have believed. There's no logic in that. The only thing I know is that it has to come out, and then I'll see what happens. Well, it's the book is a love letter to those who are looking to find their true soul and purpose. So that's what it is. I mean, it's very difficult to write that book. So,
wow, I appreciate you writing it, and I've gotten to see a preview of it, and it's fascinating. And you've had some, you've had a lot of support. Like a lot of people, when they first see it, are like, "Oh, absolutely." And
lately, there's been a lot of folks. I hate to say the term like you, but there have been a lot of healers with high IQ that have just kind of popped into my life right now. Soul family. Because as much as solitude is great, this is, and I never asked for anything, but I've asked for a lot of help on this because it's extremely painful.
What's the outcome of the book for you? You're talking about it being painful. What's happening for you now?
You know, the world is a mask, M-A-S-K, and that comes from the word M-A-S-Q-U-E, which means fool. And, the outcome, I don't know. I don't like it. I talk about my mask in the book. I mean, in my shadow, and in my struggle with relationships, from a romantic standpoint. So my goal or outcome is to be able to have these conversations in formats like this, whether they're recorded or not, because until these type of discussions, regardless of whether you believe them or not, or agree, till these type of discussions happen, then there's not going to be any healing. There just isn't. There's just going to be the continued projection of egoic leadership and people that are not healed. So, and I don't want to be a martyr or anything like that. I just think it's important to have these type of discussions. There was a great writer, I can never pronounce his name, but he wrote Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky, and he had and he was on a firing squad. He was literally about to get shot. And then the Tsar called it off at the last second. Then they sent him to Siberia for 10 years, and he's just in immense suffering there. And then, he created some of the greatest novels of all time, and he was this genius. He was so far ahead of everybody. He did that stuff in the 1850s and 1860s. But one of the characters that he created was called the Underground Man. And this was a person who lived by himself, and he understood society. He knew what was happening, but he overthought himself to the point where he didn't do anything. So all he did was complain, and he just didn't do anything. It was because he knew everything, but he couldn't do anything about it. So I would rather observe this and then create things that actually help myself and then help people. And I guess that's the outcome. That's what I'm doing.
That's beautiful. I think that's where Corbia came from a while back, is that you wanted to, and music is such a penetrating, I think a penetrating rationale, I'm going to call it. We use it, we remember music. When I worked in healthcare 20 years ago, when I worked with people who had strokes, we would use music from Mary Had Little Lamb, the earliest, London Bridge is the earliest music they would have learned, which
I think London Bridge is about the plague, by the way. So
totally. I mean, a lot of those, all of our fairy tales, twisted, messy. But when we bring in the alphabet songs, something that they would have learned early, a lot of times they could bring that through. And I think it's very interesting how music stays in our brains. When you hear stuff from decades ago, it's why we can't leave. Yeah, you're
on your utero, boom, 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 boom. You hear your mom's heartbeat.
Totally.
You hear, so that's
music is breath. It is a heartbeat. It's our pulse.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. And so I love that you brought Corbia through to help people do that. And now I'm seeing on Spotify, I don't know who's a real artist or not, but they're using the algorithm with the AI music generation to create music that's so sticky. I'm a little concerned, but also I've been caught in the trap. What do you feel about that the AI generating music that we're going to hold in our systems for the rest of our lives?
Yeah, you have very high logic with very big heart. It's very interesting. you're like leading with logic, and then the heart kind of backdoors its way in. I'm the opposite of that. I'm all heart, and then if it makes sense feeling wise, then I'll bring logic into it. You've been taught that way, and then I've unlearned, and I've unlearned that. I've unlearned it because it stopped making any sense, because I'm like, this isn't working. So I'm like, well, I'll go. So the music is a fast track into your own heart, into your own soul. Have learned that, in utero, mother's heartbeat. That's the first thing you hear. And then I look at everything as progress. Cars replaced horses, now electric cars, and there'll be flying cars. So I look at everything as progress and evolution. Everything. And then there's a great book I'm reading called The Fourth Turning. It was written in the mid-90s and basically predicted everything that's happening now in the mid-2020s, that we'd have a crisis, the crisis break apart. And it's, like seasonal. So we're in the winter season. And then what's happening now is like you're, going through a prescribed burn of a forest or a prairie. You're getting rid of all the weeds and all the stuff, burning everything down so you can have a new crop grow. By the way, that's how it feels with this book coming out. It feels like I'm burning down in a good way for a rebirth. But the so like, and then the book talks about how like this has been, you had the American Revolution or the Civil War or World War II. So it's like in these 80-year cycles. So we're at the end of an 80-year cycle. We're about to have whether you call it a world war or whatever. And then it was fascinating because I was listening. The first person I ever interviewed was my father. I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and then he was obviously still alive, but he died when I was in 8th grade. But so I asked him if he had any really big concerns, and then he was really concerned about another world war. So that was like 1987. I interviewed him. And I'm not saying we're headed toward a world war, but we're certainly heading toward, with male leadership, again, regardless of gender, but egoic leadership, where, we're heading toward that burn phase, where things have to burn before a new leadership or new understanding of how the world works emerges. And that's been proven time and time again over history. That's why this Fourth Turning book's really great, because you just keep going back 80 years and then boop, boop, boop. It's always there. And but the key is that like what the book also talks about is that there's always been these spiritual awakenings, or like looking at the lunar calendar, or how things work in seasons. That's always been the case. Just people have forgotten because they've been conditioned to look at things otherwise through business, sale, religion, those type of things.
Yeah, that's really true. And through history, through recorded history, we have the, kind of the trifecta, the birth, the sustaining, the destruction.
Yeah.
Was it Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva? Like,
whatever we want to say, yeah, whatever, culture, whatever it is, it's all the same.
It's all the same, yeah. Yeah, so that's a very interesting take. So tell me, and true, it's a very interesting and true take. Tell me what Aurum does.
Well, my partner's, she's a Life Path 33 master healer. She's based in Atlanta. I'm in the Chicago suburbs, so she's scouting properties in the Southeast. But to really simplify, it will be a place where any dynamic type of healing will be available for people to actually heal their inner core first. Why this will exist? Melissa and I both have very, very large networks of folks, again, that have capital. By the way, most of those folks are miserable because they're worried about material things and they're not healed. So again, it's to heal those folks so they can heal their companies or families, whatever that means. But yeah, which is good. And then the formula for creating a successful global company is you see a problem, create solution, problem solve, successful company. See a problem, create solution, problem solve, successful global company. So the problem is myself and people I know, they've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in rooms with folks that, whatever you want to call them, entrepreneurial rooms or visionary rooms. For the most part, and there are exceptions, but for the most part, it's narcissists pretending to be visionaries that are trying to sell stuff, which, by the way, is fine. I mean, it's okay. That's why I stand off to the side and stand by myself in those things. I don't like to go into the main rooms because I know what's really happening. But so that's the problem. So solution is create something where people can, have all these modalities. And my partner Alyssa, like she's studied religion and neuroscience and went to Emory and all that. She does all that stuff. She understands the brain and the heart. And so it's bringing healers to, and whatever modality that's going to be, to actually help heal people.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So where can people find you if they want to know more about you and what you're doing?
Well, yeah, be a human for I'm on LinkedIn. Very grateful for social media. I am, yeah. And then I guess the two sites are aurumsanctuary.com, AURUM sanctuary.com, and then corvia.ai, CORVIA.ai. And then the book Epic Journey will be out. As of this recording, it'll be out in a couple of weeks. It's being printed right now. So that is going to be quite a journey, literally, when that thing comes out. Calm before the storm. Yeah.
Definitely want to talk to you again. I know we'll be talking during all through. Feel very grateful that we're friends. And it's so funny. What I expect you to say, oh, you can't find me on social media at all, but I know that you are. I follow. I always see your sons in sports and you guys doing things together. So I love that you have this. Even though you have the hermit side, I love that you also have, like, you've been a very successful person in business. You do talk with a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, you are.
Suffering on anxiety. That's true.
Right. You are connected and a connector. You definitely share. You introduced me to somebody who, a few weeks ago, who considers himself one of your best friends, and talks about you with so much love. And so I really appreciate you sharing your heart space with me, and also how you think about things and see things. I just think you're brilliant, big love in the world, and I want people to know who you are and to benefit from what you're doing. So thank you so much for being with me today, and we'll talk again, I'm sure, soon.
Thank you. I really appreciate this interview and the timing of it. Thank you.
You dove in. This is the Soul of Connection. Subscribe now. Stay close. Your full life depends on it.